Start rolling. Vulcan Nephilim presents The Polar Express, written and illustrated by Chris Van Allsburg. Host by Andrew Banas, aka Alvin Seville. Greetings, everybody. This is Alvin Seville, also known as Andrew Banas, your host of the Great Railroad Show. Today on this story, I'm gonna tell you the whole story of the Polar Express, while the original video used to play back in 2004 on the appreciated model railroaders like myself. So sit back, relax, and while the train loops around. On Christmas Eve, many years ago, I lay quietly in my bed. I did not rustle the sheets. I breathed slowly and silently. I was the one listening. For a sound I was afraid I never hear. The ringing bells of Sandy's sleigh. There is no Sandy, my friend had insisted. But I knew he or she was wrong. Later that night, I did hear strange sounds, though not ringing bells. From outside came the sounds of hissing steam and squeaking metal. I looked through my window and I saw a train standing perfectly still in front of my house. It was wrapped in the apron of steam. Snowflakes felt lightly around it. A conductor stared at the open door of one of the cars. He also took out the large pocket watch from his vest, then looked up at my window. I quickly put on the slippers and robe. I tiptoed down the stairs and out the door. The conductor cried out. I ran out to him. Well, he said, they're coming? Where? I asked him. Why, to the North Pole, of course, was his answer. I took his outstretched hand and he pulled me aboard. The train was filled with other children, all dressed up in their pajamas and nightgowns. We sang Christmas carols and ate candies with nougat cinders as white as snow. We drank hot cocoa as thick and rich as melted chocolate bars. Outside, the lights of towns and villages flickered in the distance as the Polar Express raced northward. Soon, there were no more lights to be seen. We traveled through cold, dark forests where lean wolves roam. And white-tailed rabbits hid from our trains that thundered through the quiet wilderness. We climbed mountains so high, it seemed as if we could scrape the moon. But when the Polar Express never slowed down, faster and faster we ran along, rolling over peaks and through valleys, like a car on a roller coaster. The mountains turned into hills, then the hills into snow-covered plains. We crossed over a barren desert of ice, the Great Polar Ice Cap. Those lights in the distance, they looked like the lights of a strange ocean liner sailing on the frozen sea. There, said the conductor, is the North Pole. The North Pole. It was a huge city, standing alone at the top of the world, through a bunch of factories where every Christmas toy was made. At first, we saw no elves. They are gathering at the center of the city. That is where Santy will get the first gift of Christmas. Who gets the first gift of Christmas? He will choose one of you. Look! Elvis! Outside, we saw hundreds of elves. As our train drew closer to the center of the North Pole, we slowed down to a crawl, so crowded on the streets of Sandy's helpers. When the Polar Express could go no further, we stopped, and the conductor let us outside. We pressed through the crowd, through the edge of a large open circle. In front of us stood Sandy's sleigh. The reindeer were excited. They pranced in pace, and the elves rang the silver sleigh bells that hung in their harnesses. It was just a magical sound, like nothing else I ever heard. Across the circle, the elves moved apart, and then Santa Claus appeared. The elves cheered wildly. He marched over to us, and pointing to me, said, "Let's have this young fella right here." He jumped into his car. The conductor carried me up. I sat on Sandy's seat, and he asked, "Now, what would you like for Christmas?" I knew I could have every single gift I could imagine, but the most important thing is, I needed most for Christmas was not allowed to be inside Sandy's giant bag. What I ever really needed more than everything was just one silver bell based on Sandy's sleigh. When I asked whispered into her ear, Sandy smiled. Then he gave me a hug for a little bit and told one head elf to cut a bell from the reindeer's harness. The elf tossed it up to Sandy. He stood holding the bell high above him and called out, "The first gift of Christmas!" A clock tower strikes midnight as when the elves rolled their approval. Sandy handed the bell to me, and then I put it in my bathrobe pocket. The conductor helped me down from the sleigh. Sandy shouted out the reindeer's names and cracked his whip. His team charged forward hovering, and his car climbed into the air. Sandy circled once above us, then disappeared in a cold, dark polar sky. As soon as we were back inside the Polar Express, the other children asked me to see the bell. I started reaching my pocket, but then suddenly the only thing I felt was a hole by accident. I lost it. I lost the bell from Sandy's sleigh. "Let's hurry up inside and look for it," one of the children said. But it was too late. The train gave a sudden lurch and started moving. We were on our way home. It broke my heart to lose the bell. Whenever the train reached to my house, I sadly left the other children. I stood off towards the doorway and waved goodbye. Then the conductor said something from the moving train because I could not hear him. "What?" I yelled out. He cupped his hands around his mouth. "Merry Christmas!" he shouted. The Polar Express blew a loud blasting whistle and sped away. On Christmas morning, my little sister Sarah and I started opening our gifts. After when it looked everything else has been unwrapped, Sarah suddenly found one last small box behind a model train and the Christmas tree. It had a name on it. And inside was a solo bell followed me home. And there's a note underneath when I got there. Found this on the seat of my sleigh. Better fix that hole in your pocket, Mr. C. I also shook the bell. It made the most beautiful sound since my sister and I had ever heard. But when my mother used to say, "Oh, that's too bad," broken, said my father. But when I shaken the bell many times, my parents had not allowed to be heard a sound. At one time, most of my childhood friends could hear the bell. But as years passed, it felt silent for all of them I have lost. Even though Sarah could actually found one Christmas that she could no longer hear because of its sweet sound. Though now I've grown old, the bell still always rings for me, and as it does for all who ever truly believe. So there you have it, everybody. This is what model trains is supposed to do. And if you base upon the locomotive Piedmont 1225, you can actually ride this real locomotive like this model. And if you answer other questions, just call this phone number and see if you get a convoy for a tractor trailer to bring all the items across global lines to my house later on the way for Hollywood. And if you don't, who else might know? And this is why I'm working on other model trains like this one for a few years in schools out. Because unfortunately, the other trains that used to help along the way, who we actually get a convoy to help with all the locomotives. If you call me in the next 15 minutes, you shall, based upon free, save the train's bumper sticker. And now here's the artwork that shows about what kind of Polar Express that used to phone about. But when I hope you had this incident, you will have to call this number about save the trains. Steam trains that used to be important part of history along with everybody else. And if you lose them, who else is going to know next? And I hope you have a wonderful, jolly time of the year. This is a favorite model wearing story when I watched the video over the years back when I was 5 years old. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you wish you all a Merry Christmas. And don't forget, keep on monking.